Hi, my name is Shubi, and welcome to another episode of Fiery Money. Today's episode is especially for all of you international students, or those of you who are planning to come to Canada as an international student. Today, I will show you the exact math that I followed as an international student to be able to afford my living expenses as well as my second year's tuition fees in Canada. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get going. A lot of people will tell you that it's nearly impossible to be able to save up your tuition fees as an international student. And the reason they think that is because an international student is only allowed to work part-time in Canada, which is about 20 hours. So you do need a little bit of help up front, and that's where I highly recommend that you plan for it from the get-go. So let's look at some math, shall we? The numbers you're seeing right here on the screen are based on Ontario. So I'm looking at about $18,000 as first year's tuition fees and about 14.25 or 14.35 as the minimum wage. To round up the calculations and not bother calculating taxes, I'm roughly taking that as $14. Okay, so with that said, let's get going. When you do come to Canada as an international student, you are required to pay your first year's tuition fee upfront. So in this math, I'm looking at it about $18,000, and that's about how much you would be expecting to pay for your second year as well. Another part of the international students process is to have a GIC registered with one of the banks in Canada. A GIC stands for a Guaranteed Investment Certificate, I think. But basically what that is $10,000 that you would take from your home country and deposit into an account in Canada. And this is the proof to the government that you have sufficient funds to be able to live in Canada for at least 1 year and survive should you not get a job or should you don't have enough time to work. Lastly, I do recommend you bring in at least $4,000 when you land into Canada as an international student. And we'll look into the reasons why you need that money shortly. Before we get into understanding how to manage your money as an international student, you first need to understand what your monthly expenses are as a student in Canada. The very first big one is rent. Rent in Canada, especially in the Greater Toronto area, or if you're in Vancouver or Victoria, is ridiculously expensive. When I came to Canada about 7 years ago, one room costed about $375, where two of us stayed. Today, you can maybe get a room for about $700 to $1,000. You can share a room, so whatever that room costs, so let's say it's about $1,000, can get split right in the middle between the two of you. That being said, you could potentially also get a rental for about $500 depending on which city you're living in. And in some rentals, you may have utilities that you may have to pay on top of the rental. Utilities include things like water or electricity and gas and all of that. All in all, try to find a place where your rent plus utilities is no more than $550. It's not impossible. If you can find an owner that will give you internet included in that rent, bingo. The second big expense is food. Food is expensive. If you make it at home, it's significantly cheaper. But if you start eating outside a lot, or if you start buying a lot of junk like chips and biscuits and cookies, it's going to get expensive ridiculously fast. I typically budget in $200 per month, so that's about $50 per week in groceries. But that does assume that you buy the raw materials and prepare your snacks and food at home. So keep that in mind. It is a very conservative budget for food in Canada. But as a student, and in order to be able to pay your fees, that's what we need to stick with. The third thing is bus pass. Depending on where you live, how far your college is, how frequently you're traveling, it may be cheaper to pay for each ride using a Presto card. If not, get a bus pass. It's a flat fee per month and it'll give you unlimited travel across your region. In Toronto, the bus pass per month for a student is $130, but it could be significantly cheaper if you're living in another region. When I was a student, my bus pass was included in my tuition fees, which was freaking amazing because it saved me $130 every single month. If you can find a college that does that and you like, go for it. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. The fourth biggest expense will be your phone bill. I don't recommend getting a phone plan that's any higher than $45 or $50 per month. And that should give you unlimited messages, unlimited calls, and about 3 to 5 gigs of internet, which should be sufficient for you considering every place in Canada has a Wi-Fi. You could get free Wi-Fi at work, you'll have Wi-Fi at home, you'll have Wi-Fi in college, you'll have Wi-Fi even at a Tim Hortons. So you really don't need a lot of internet as long as you remember to turn your mobile data off and keep your Wi-Fi on at all times. And lastly, about $35 for your internet. So I'm assuming you're at least 2 to 4 people who can split the cost of internet. Again, if you can find a rental place that includes Wi-Fi, go for it and you'll save that $35 per month. So all in all, your monthly expenses to survive in Canada do come up to $965 per month. Before we get into more math, I want you to quickly smash that like button and subscribe to this channel if you found this helpful. Now that we have that basic understanding of how much money you need to survive in Canada every month, let's talk about the $4,000 I asked you to bring in when you land into Canada. Out of that $4,000, I want you to take $1,500 and put aside as savings because we'll need that in the future. And the remaining $2,500 are meant for you to get settled into Canada. As soon as you come in, if you haven't paid this already, you will have to pay the first and the last month of your rent to your landlord. And that's a typical practice in Canada. So assuming you found that rental unit for about $550 a month, you will have to pay $1,100 to your landlord as soon as you move into that unit or before. What you'll also need is to fund yourself for the month of August. If we deduct the rent out of our $965 total, we are left with $380 for your basic expenses for the month of August. Number 3, you also need textbooks, so there's a $500 fund for you to be able to afford your first year's or first semester's worth of textbooks. And number 4, your Kickstarter fund. So if you didn't bring all the things you need from your home country, like towels and dustbins and shower curtains and I don't know what not, you have about $500 just to get settled in Canada. Now, I don't recommend spending all the money that's available, but keep that fund just in case you need it. All of that comes up to approximately $2,500. The remaining $1,500 we put into a savings fund that we're going to use to pay off our fees. Before we go into the exact math as to how you can save up your fees, here are some tips and tricks from somebody who has done it herself. Number 1, hit that like button and subscribe. If you do that, you can do this. Number 2, don't do it alone. The trick to surviving as an international student through everything, loads of assignment, loads of work, cooking and cleaning and missing your family and all the emotional and physical trauma that it comes with, is to not do it alone. Find a friend. Make lots of friends, talk to a lot of people, network, and the more people you have, the stronger your network is, the easier it will be to survive. Number 3, come in the September intake. So come in the fall intake. And the reason I recommend this to everybody I know is if you come in the fall or the September intake, you have 4 months where you can work full time. This will play a major role in you being able to pay off your own tuition fees. However, if you come in the December intake or your winter intake, you're studying for 16 consecutive months where you're only able to work part-time legally. That's a huge drawback in my opinion. So if you want to be able to pay your own tuition fees, just come in the fall intake, in the September intake. Next, always come 1 month before the intake. So come in August instead of September itself. And I know a lot of people will come back and say, oh, but that's going to be so much more expensive. I have to pay for an additional month of rent and this and that. No, it's going to make your life easier. And the reason I say that is, in the month of September itself, you'll see a lot of international as well as domestic students coming into the city and looking for part-time jobs. If you're a month earlier, you're a month ahead of the curve. You're looking for jobs before everybody else is. A lot of small businesses will ask you to come in for 2 or 3 days and work without getting paid. So coming in August, before your education starts, before you have to start settling and learning how to do assignments or how Canadian education system works, you get a month to settle yourself in Canada, understand the bus routes, get used to the job, do some training, make new friends, as well as get to know the city a little better and just ease into everything as opposed to getting thrown into it all at once. So try and come a month earlier. And this way, also when your college starts, you have a stable job or at least a place you know will give you at least 20 hours a week to work for the next 2 years. This budget is very conservative and you have to stick to it every single month. It's not going to be easy. And if you notice, it doesn't include things like partying or eating out or shopping. It just doesn't. So if you want to be able to do any of those things, you have to work more hours than what's written here, or find other ways to make money. Some of the things you can do is get a cash job. You did not hear that here, okay? Or find a higher paying job. So especially if you work for your college or university, you'll notice that the wage rate is slightly higher than what you'll get outside in the market. Or if you work as a server or a bartender in a restaurant or a bar, you can make a lot of money just in tips alone. So try to find creative ways to increase your income if you want to be able to afford other things like that. I also know people who have done it way more aggressively. So people who have worked crazy hard in the first 4 or 5 months and saved up enough money to be able to pay off their tuition fees and then enjoyed the rest of the time they were an international student in Canada. Also, if you have relatives or know people here, live with them. Just look at the numbers. You're going to save about $800 or $900 every single month you live with them. And that will give you the luxury to not only do a few of the extra things, but also be able to save up for your tuition fees way faster than any place else. Now that you have all the background you need, let's talk about how to actually save this money for your second year and how to fund your expenses. What you do need to do is come in August, find a job in August itself, and start working and earning money by September. You work part-time, so that's 20 hours a week, all through the time you're studying in college, and you have to find a job and build the right connections to be able to work full-time, so that's your 40 hours a week, in the 4 months you have in summer. So the current minimum wage in Ontario is about $14.25. I'm considering $14 just to not have to calculate all the taxes you would pay on it and what vacation pay you'd get on it and so on. So roughly in a month, you'd make $14 into 20 hours per week into 4 weeks. So that's about $1,120. You'll also get $666.67 every single month for the first 12 months from your GIC. The most important part is to never, ever spend a single penny from your GIC. That money is supposed to be for your tuition fees. So the $10,000 you do get from your GIC needs to be put straight into a different savings account for your tuition fees. And that way you only need $8,000 remaining to be able to fund your complete tuition fees. So you take the $1,120 you make every single month, deduct your basic expenses, so that's $965, and you have about $155 remaining. Your GIC plus your $155 give you a grand total of $821.67 that you have to put into your savings account every single month without fail. So these are your savings when you're studying full-time and only able to work part-time. How about the 4 months when you're on vacation and working full-time? Assuming $14 an hour for 40 hours a week for 4 weeks gives you a grand total of $2,240. So that, deducted by your basic expenses, again the $965, leaves you with $1,275. We add our GIC on top of it, and now you have $1,941.67. You do this consistently every single month, and I promise you, you will have enough money to be able to pay off your tuition fees. Now that you have all the information you need to arm yourself, let's look at how everything comes together. What you see on your screen right now is the exact spreadsheet that I used to use when I was an international student. The only difference was I used to track it bi-weekly because that's how often I used to get paid. The way your GIC works when you come in as an international student is out of the $10,000, the first 2,000 are given to you as soon as you land and check in with the bank. After that, every single month for the next 12 months, you get $666.67. So we start off with that $2,000 of GIC money and the $1,500 that are left over from our $4,000 fund that we brought in when we came to the country. So for your first and second semester that you are studying, so for the first 8 months, you will be saving $821.67 consistently every single month. And then for the 4 months that you see here on the screen in green, you'll be saving $1,941.67. Typically, for your second year, the college will allow you to split your fees into two. So you pay for the first semester somewhere around July, and you pay for the second semester somewhere around November. So you save from August till June, and then in July, you pay your first installment of about $9,500. And then you continue saving all the way till November, and then pay the second installment, which would be about $8,500. And even after paying all of this, you'll have about $305 remaining with you. And at that point, I want you to not give up. Continue saving, especially if you have taken a loan to fund for the initial amount to come to Canada. You can easily pay that off in 1 to 2 years after you graduate with a full-time job. And if you continue saving, you will have enough money to do it even faster. This process by no means is easy. All I can tell you is it's worth it. It's going to test your perseverance, your hard work, your money management, and your time management skills. But at the end of it, you're going to come out as a much stronger and a much better person. I look forward to seeing all of you here. If you found this useful, leave a comment for me down below, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Until next time, take care.